So in this video, I'm going to go over a workflow that I've already created. This workflow, essentially, it takes our SmartLead API key and takes the analytics from SmartLead and adds it to ClickUp. I'm not going to rebuild this one, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show different things that we did so that you can see kind of how I think through this process, why we set it up this way, and how it all goes. So now you're thinking through this process, right? And the first thing you need to think about is, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to get SmartLead analytics from SmartLead into ClickUp so I can have a project management overview. So you look at SmartLead's API documentation, which we'll probably do a workflow build probably after this video in order to do that. You look at SmartLead's API documentation, and in order to get the campaign analytics, the first thing you need is you need the campaign ID. And so then you think to yourself and you're like, okay, where's the campaign ID and how could I pull it in? So what we could do is we could query we could query the SmartLead API and get every single campaign. And we could get all the campaign ideas and then we could run it like that. Campaign IDs. But the reason why we don't want to do that is because I don't actually want to keep track of every single campaign. I only want to keep track of the campaigns that are in my ClickUp. And so it's like, okay, so the campaigns are going to be in ClickUp. So we made it a standard operating procedure to put the URL of the SmartLead campaign into the ClickUp task so that we would be able to do exactly what's here. So that means we're going to start with listing all of the tasks first. And so ClickUp is going to start as our source, right? And so we used list all tasks, and this runs on a scheduled run. So if you want it to run every 12 hours, you literally just set that up where it'll list all tasks, and then we schedule the settings. So every 12 hours, we get new data populated in. So we set all of this up. Again, if you need support on setting this stuff up, ask ChatGPT with web browsing turned on of how to do this, because it's it could be kind of a monster to set this up by yourself. And with the AI browsing the web, it's a really good support companion for you. And so here we're listing all of the tasks. So if we hit refresh, it might change from 96 tasks to 1. Yeah. So now it goes up and now we're good to go. And so we're just going to hit OK. So now we know that this one's ready to go. Now we have a text parser. This is one that I didn't know how to use when I first started using Make, and this is a perfect opportunity to go over this right now. And so, actually, before we get there, so sorry. See how we have this filter here? I am basically filtering to ensure that if I'm pulling a campaign, the only reason it's going to continue working with the workflow is if the text contains app.smartlead.ai. That is the text that I want to pass through, because that is what the campaign has inside of it. So the only time that we keep passing data through is if this custom field, which is the campaign URL for SmartLead, has app.smartlead.ai. The way we set up the filter is you literally just click on the lines connecting these things, and then you just set up your filter. And we did a contains filter, and there we go. Then we have our text parser. Again, I didn't know how to use this when I first started using make.com. Great time to go over this. And so in order to set this up, essentially what we're doing here is we're separating it by the pattern here. And this is what we entered in here. Again, I am not a make.com master. The way we put this in, and I knew to put this in, was because I knew that I wanted the custom fields from SmartLead, which is wherever it is. That's the kind of annoying part about make.com, is you have to search through this stuff to find it. So I knew that I wanted that. And then I used ChatGPT to say, how do I separate it so that it's app.smartlead.ai, and then at that backslash, I want that number. And so then we use the text parser to get that done. And so then that passes through. And then and now we have the campaign ID, which the text parser pulls out that campaign ID for us. And then it goes to the SmartLead HTTP request, which I have to pause the video so I can cover up my API key. So when we open this, see how then it's the fallback match that we get? That's how we're going to query the API key, because this fallback match that we got from the text parser is precisely what we need. So we need this number, right, inside of the API key, and then we can get all of our data, which then edits the task inside of ClickUp, and we get our SmartLead analytics hooked up for us. Now, you see this part going up with it as well. What is this? Now what we're doing is one time we had a problem with a client because we sent 20,000 emails for them or something like that, and their open rate in the beginning was like 80%, and then their responses just basically fell off the cliff of the earth, and I didn't know why, and I didn't have any tracking on it. The reason why is we had an email deliverability problem, and so we went from like an 80% open rate to like a 13% open rate. But because my analytics all said, it said the open rate of the campaign was like 65% because we went so long at 80%, and then the average with 13% became like 60% or whatever it was. And so then I was like, oh shoot, what we need to add in is we need to, every time we run this update, we need to check what the analytics were for yesterday. So not only do we have an open rate all time, we have a yesterday open rate as well. So when you use the smart lead, analytics, you can set a date range. And so I wanted to set a range from yesterday to today, and I wanted the analytics of all of our campaigns. So you use tools inside of make.com in order to set that. And so the way we came up with this, again, I asked ChatGPT, I was like, how can I set the variable value inside of the tools to basically output the date for yesterday? And so then this is what it told me, and this is exactly what you do. And now when we pass through, and I just got to pause again. So now when we pass through, usually my API key would be here, but now when we pass through, we have the campaign ID here, and then we have the start date of the analytics, which is coming from our settings, and then we have the end date over here as well, so that now we can query it, and then we can edit everything, and then we're good to go. So this is a good example for one of how I think about these things, but then two, using ChatGPT to do things that you have no clue how to do in make.com, but you can just get it done. And if there's any questions about that, like literally, this is how I would do it. So like the most recent one we were talking about is this tools one, right? And so we'll just open this up, and I literally just prompt it like this. I turn on web browsing, and I just say, I'm using make.com to build a workflow. I want to use the tools module to set a variable so that I can input yesterday's date into my workflow. How should I set and then we just look at what it is, the variable value, so that I can input yesterday's date into the rest of my workflow. And then you're going to let it run. And so it's going to browse the web, and it's going to go find things, right? And this is, honestly, when you're using make.com, anytime I don't know how to do something, I just go straight to ChatGPT. And so we'll just pause to just get this answer. I don't know how long it's going to take. And so you see here, it first gave me an answer that was like, it was okay. It like definitely found the right page. And then I was just like, oh, what would the actual function be to subtract the days? And then it's add days. And then if you go to here, I'm already on it. This is exactly how we would get it done, right? So it's today, and then it would be like -2. So add days would be -2. We'd go from 1208 to 1206. So then we could hop over, and you see our variable is today. And so this is how we set like today's date. So format date -1, and then that's how we got yesterday. So again, when I was figuring out make.com, I didn't have ChatGPT and like all this other stuff. Definitely just leverage ChatGPT. If you ever get stuck, it'll really help you, so you don't have to read all of the support documentation and everything. So I know this probably wasn't that helpful for setting up an actual workflow. I really just wanted you to see my thought process behind it, and we'll set up an actual workflow after this. So here we go.